Now, my first guest today is the lawyer, political economist, and former deputy governor of the Nigerian Central Bank, Professor Kingsley Moghalu, one of the most robust critics of the current Nigerian political system. He's declared yet again his ambition to be president of Nigeria, promising, as he did in 2019 when he first ran for office, to be a breath of fresh air and to end the stale, corrupt and nepotistic politics of Nigeria's recent past and present. But his critics allege that, as with the last time he made a bid for the highest office, he has no nationwide grassroots appeal and is not part of either mainstream political party in Nigeria. But Professor Moghalu retorts that he's here to change the status quo, not be part of it. And he says that no amount of criticism targeted at him can disguise the fact that the current administration has failed to meet the challenges of governance, ranging from national insecurity and a struggling economy to rising unemployment and poverty.
What is the value of a Nigerian life? We live daily today in the shadow of terrorists. The economy is collapsing. Many families cannot afford the price of food. Millions of young men and women have no jobs. The very idea of Nigeria has become increasingly meaningless to many Nigerians. Cries for self-determination fill the air in response to fundamental injustice. We were not born to be miserable or to die miserable. Enough is enough. It is now more than ever necessary that we elect in 2023 a leader who is truly committed and capable of initiating the constitutional restructuring of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. A leader who is competent to secure our lives and property, manage our diversity, save our economy, and restore our standing in the world. For the sake of the youth of our country, and for the sake of all Nigerians suffering and seeking a clear alternative to the status quo.
Well, let's speak to the man himself, Professor Kingsley Moghalu, political economist, lawyer, former deputy governor of the Nigerian Central Bank, and former presidential candidate who on Tuesday declared his renewed presidential aspiration for Nigeria 2023. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. You've been on a rise earlier today, so let's just make it clear that we're not particularly plugging you. We just think it was pure coincidence that you're on both programs. I was going to begin by asking you where you are in this odyssey that you are undertaking, this quest for the presidency of Nigeria, and how you intend to get there.
Well, I'm in the second installment of it. Let's not forget that the current president did 4 installments. He ran 4 times before he could win. Obviously, I hope I don't have to run 4 times before I win.
But you will if you have to, will you?
I mean, I'm consistent in my vision. This is not an ambition as such. This is a vision I have for Nigeria because as a citizen, I'm not happy with what's going on in our country. I'm not happy with how the future looks for our children, including, as I said, my 4 children, whose future is being drowned in reckless foreign borrowing and you know, insecurity and so on. So, also, a lot of things have changed between 2019 and 2021. In 2 years, the amount of insecurity in this country, the increase in poverty, the degradation of the national fabric, you know, it's like, you know, many people, as I said, just increasingly question the legitimacy of the idea of Nigeria itself. And that's all because of a failure of leadership. And so sometimes some people will say, oh yeah, you know, you have the 2 main political parties. What we actually have in this country is 2 things. One, you have politics without governance. So the big political structures know how to maneuver and get into power, and then they cannot govern. And that's why the quality of life of the Nigerian keeps dropping every day.
Right. So you desire to be president in a country that's arguably according to you, one of the worst hit by bad governance in Africa.
Yes, absolutely.
Just how bad are things in Nigeria? Because it's easy enough to identify the problems.
Yes.
It's the solutions that are the issue.
And that's where actually I come in, because I see myself as a man with solutions. And I'm focusing on the capacity, the vision and the capacity to govern, and asking Nigerians to actually, in their enlightened self-interest of all of us, let's shift, from the usual politics of the status quo to actually being able to govern our country well. Things are bad when you consider the fact that thousands of people, just, within a few years, at least not less than 3,000 to 4,000 Nigerians have been killed in terrorist activity. So many thousands as well have been kidnapped. So that's just terrible. That the most fundamental expectation that people have in a country, that I can be secure if I go out or if I get on the road from Abuja to Kaduna, you can no longer guarantee that anymore. Look at the price of food doubling over the past year. The average woman in the market in Abuja or in Onitsha or anywhere in the country, feels the pain. The households are having a hard time surviving. And then you look at the joblessness of the young people. Unemployment is at 33%. Poverty, about 30 million people. In 2016, about 70 million Nigerians were in extreme poverty. Today, it's about 100 million. So in 5 years, 30 million people have sort of been promoted into more poverty. How is this possible? How is this level of failure possible? And I think it calls for something different, because if you keep doing the same thing all over again and getting the same results, something must be wrong. So I say the SWAG agenda, that the agenda for the future is this: a fundamental constitutional restructuring of Nigeria. And you need a leader with the courage and the capacity to initiate it. It's mostly a legislative process, but you have to have a president who believes in it.
So is that the main plank of your
That's a foundation.
focus?
It's
right.
more of a grand norm, because without a restructured Nigeria, the country has very little hope. So, but then based on that plank, combined with capable leadership, you now have 4 programs, and we call it 4x4. 4 things we have to achieve in 4 years, and that is security for the average Nigerian and for Nigeria's territory. Today, all kinds of terrorists are planting flags in Niger State, in parts of Borno State. How is this not a failing state, if you want to be very polite, or possibly a failed one, if you want to be actually perhaps more accurate? Now, so you have security. Then we have the war against poverty. I talked about how poor people are getting. Then you have accelerated, education and healthcare reform. Then you have good governance. So that's the SWAG agenda. And that's really the focus. And each plank, we have, of course, more detailed policy approaches.
Right. It's obviously those details that people are going to want
we will
to
be
see.
dishing them out at the right time.
Right.
Campaigns
But are
haven't
these,
started.
the question that a lot of people are asking is whether these proposals and plans, and I've got text messages, I'll read some of them out to you, some of the questions as we make progress. Proposals and plans that you have actually achievable, because obviously you can't do it alone.
No.
And the more some people listen to you, the more they get the sense that you're a sort of oasis in the middle of a desert.
Absolutely,
or at least
wrong.
That's the way that you're looking at it, that you've got to be part of a broader campaign that must have the buy-in of Nigerians, including the politicians that you criticize as being corrupt, and the majority of the Nigerian people who we know to be so ravaged by poverty that they are motivated more by their daily needs than by some
big policy
idea,
agenda.
to try and change things. Are you bearing all these problems in mind as you develop your plans and proposals?
Absolutely. We have learned many valuable lessons from 2019. And that's why, it's good to have the experience and you apply what you learned. So whatever mistakes, whatever shortcomings, we're going to seek to correct them as we move forward this time. I said in my announcement that this is not about me. I am part of a movement. Many Nigerians today are dissatisfied. Many of them are looking for something different from what's going on, but they cannot identify anything or anybody. And so I thought, as a leader, I should make it clear that I'm here again humbly asking for your support, so that we can change our reality or turn around our reality. So no, there's no such thing as an oasis. At all, not at all. I'm simply a face for millions who are faceless. That's the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you to stay with us. We're going to come straight
Absolutely.
back to you. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chat with Professor Kingsley Moghalu, former presidential candidate who has just declared his renewed aspiration for the highest office in 2023. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Now, his first attempt for the highest office at the last Nigerian presidential election in 2019 has brought Professor Kingsley Moghalu, former deputy governor of the central bank, to the attention of many Nigerians. Despite the fact he's never held any elective office, a broad church of analysts and observers seem to agree that his grasp of Nigeria's current political, economic and social travails and the solutions he offered to fix them made him among the more progressive voices of the 2019 election campaign. But it wasn't enough to deliver his ambitious quest to become the president of Nigeria. So what's likely to be different in 2023?
With all humility, to present myself again to Nigerians as a candidate for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in the 2023 general elections. We, the Nigerian people, matter. We deserve better. Together, we will decide and join within the next few months a political party of our choice. We can do this. We can change Nigeria. It is not rocket science. Let's do this because we can and we must.
And Professor Kingsley Moghalu, political economist, lawyer, former deputy governor of the Nigerian Central Bank, former presidential candidate who has declared his renewed presidential aspiration for Nigeria 2023, is still with me in the studio. Thank you for staying with us. This is a country that is, of course, mired in the ravages of ethnicity. The Hausa Fulani in the north have been politically dominant under President Buhari. The Igbo, of which you are a part, have become less politically dominant and are struggling to coalesce around a single candidate for the presidency. The Yoruba, of course, also nursing ambition for 2023, but also somewhat overshadowed by the political dominance of the Hausa Fulani under President Buhari, although, of course, they at least have the vice presidential position currently and are within spitting distance of the top job. How are you going to balance all these competing interests so that you can emerge top dog?
Well, let me tell you, sometimes the moment meets the man or the woman. In 2019, everyone believed it was still the turn of northern Nigeria to produce the president. In 2019, the security situation in Nigeria was bad, but not as bad as it is today. There has been, in recent months in Nigeria, many people's eyes have been opened. And many people are beginning to think new thoughts. And some are trying to extricate themselves from worshiping the same old gods of the big parties. Many people are beginning to look for the person more than the party. The person will have a party, obviously. You cannot run as an independent candidate. And that's why, and this is where I think I have an advantage. I think my advantage is that we have established across the board the readiness to govern competently from day one. I said in my announcement that we will appoint a dream team. And let me tell you, 1/3 of that team, perhaps almost half, is already registered in my head. And they don't know. I have not asked them. But I know that if you made me president today, I know who my Minister of Finance will be. I know who most likely will be my foreign minister. I know this or that. So I'm prepared. Now, we also have the End SARS movement, which happened late last year. These things have created very important shifts in the predisposition of Nigerians as we approach 2023. So the question is, can we build the organization across the whole country? Can we raise the resources to sustain such an organization across the whole country? So I've also announced early, in order to signal to all those who are unhappy with the status quo, that you're not alone. We can rally together.
But of course, even the End SARS protests, sad to say, was infected by the poison of ethnicity, because it split along sort of ethnic lines.
Let me tell you something about ethnicity. It's a narrative that has been fostered by our politicians for their benefit. That is to say, they want to hold on to power. They pit the Hausa Fulani against the Yoruba, pit the Yoruba against the Igbo, and pit everybody against everybody else. There are only two tribes in this country: the politicians and the suffering masses of Nigeria. Poverty, unemployment, insecurity affect all of us equally. The bandit doesn't ask you what state you come from. If it catches you at the wrong time of the night in the wrong place, you're gone. Inflation doesn't exempt anybody because you're Igbo or you're Yoruba. No. So it's a false narrative that has been sold to us. And I present a vision of leadership that is not tribal or ethnic. I go for the condition of the mass of Nigeria. And here are the plans we have, in whether you live in the north or in the west or in the east. So I'm not caught up in tribal or ethnic politics, and I have no apologies to offer anybody for
it. Let's talk about the things that we're all caught up in.
Yes.
Let's talk about the hugely topical issue of insecurity in Nigeria, where bandits, armed gangs, and insurgents all act with impunity because of a lack of stringent law enforcement.
That's right.
And now, beyond the localized kidnappings in the northwest and the insurgency in the northeast, we're now seeing explosions of insecurity across Nigeria, particularly in the southeast, with rising violence taking place there right now. What, in your assessment, is the reason why all that has become a daily affair? And what are you going to do about it if you became president?
That's why the war against poverty is essential. A lot of the insecurity we suffer in this country has economic origins. Unemployment, joblessness, no skills for young people, weak education. They are easy prey for people with agendas. So if we can tackle our economic problems, and keep our young people coming out of universities engaged properly in creating prosperity for themselves, and by so doing the GDP for everybody, then we will make progress.
But you're saying if you can tackle it. The people want to know how you're going to tackle it.
No, but that's the point.
Because the issue is not about identifying the problem.
No, it's about how.
Absolutely.
Good. One of the first things I'm going to do, if I were president of Nigeria, is that the state is too involved in the marketplace. You do not create prosperity by having a statist economy when you don't have a capable state. What is the capacity of the Nigerian civil service today? What is the capacity of Nigeria to extract taxes? What is the capacity of Nigeria to defend its territory? What is the capacity of Nigeria to provide administrative service delivery to its citizens? These are the things I have to first go for. So the government will get out of the way, but we will create an enabling environment, and we will create policy that will engage private enterprise to thrive. Nigerians are enterprising and vibrant people. So there's no need for the government to go and be stifling their innovation, with all kinds of controls that only create corruption and bribery.
Right, okay.
So that's the first point, a philosophical approach. I keep saying it, and I have no apology. If you don't think it, if you can't think it, you cannot do it. If you have no ideas, you can't govern. So the second thing that we're going to do is, of course, in the security space. Securing our people across this country, whether in the northeast, whether in the southeast, whether in the west, requires political will. If you as a leader privilege any group above any other, and such that when that group is committing crimes, you're not exercised, you're not engaged. Instead, maybe you're asking people to kind of tolerate or accommodate them, then you're not exercising leadership. You will not find me there. I don't care whether you're my brother in the southeast or whether you're my brother in the northeast or in the southwest. The law will apply equally in this country to everyone in a Kingsley Moghalu presidency.
Okay.
So once you send that message and enforce it, people begin to behave in a bit of a different way. Let me tell you, Charles.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to hold that thought, because
right.
we're going to take another
Sure.
break. I apologize.
Okay.
You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chat with Professor Kingsley Moghalu, who has declared his renewed aspiration for the Nigerian presidency in 2023. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Now, he is the self-proclaimed insurgent outsider who would like to be Nigeria's president in 2023. Dr. Kingsley Moghalu is a professor of international business and public policy, former United Nations senior official, and former deputy governor of the Nigerian Central Bank, who vilifies many politicians as pillars of the corrupt Nigerian establishment. He says he's come to save Nigeria from its recurring nightmare of poverty, insecurity, arrested development and ethnic conflict, and from leaders who are chaotic and full of destructive energy. But he tried and failed to become president of Nigeria in 2019, so are things likely to be different this time? And Professor Kingsley Moghalu is still with me in the studio. Thank you for staying with us. Let's turn to a critical area that you touched on before we went on break, and that's the economy.
Yes.
What is your assessment of the Nigerian economy at present? And what is your economic outlook for Nigeria going forward if it continues along the current trajectory that it is on? Would you say that the COVID-19 pandemic, for example, has placed Nigeria at a critical juncture?
Yes, it has. And it happens actually that right now I am actually engaged as a special envoy of the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, on a special assignment as their special envoy on post-COVID development finance for Africa, for the whole of the African continent. And one of the things we're working on is to see how we can use innovative financing, how we can bring philosophical approaches into fiscal management and economic management that can unlock Africa's money for Africa's development. So that's, because you mentioned COVID, I have to sort of relate it to this thing I'm doing now, together with other senior officials at UNDP in New York. But the economy in Nigeria, there are 2 or 3 things that can unlock it. And each one of these 3 I will do if I become president. Number 1, the economy of any country that is wealthy and prosperous, go and check it. It has a philosophical foundation. That is what governs it. If you think you don't care about philosophy, or if you think, we're blowing grammar, fine. You can
some form of ideology.
Some form of ideology. You can be a statist, but for you to be a statist, you must have a capable state. This government is trying to be statist, but the state is not capable. They can't even raise taxes. So you can be a free market person. That is more of the extreme side of laissez-faire, a free market. You can be, more of a social democrat, somewhere in the middle.
And which one are you?
I am more of in the middle. I'm a strategic capitalist. I'm a capitalist with a conscience. So I believe that the market will produce prosperity, but we must look out for the poor. So that's where I am. Now, so that's number 1. The second thing that must happen is that Nigeria's economy is held back and being choked to death by Nigeria's politics. And the beginning of that politics is the constitutional structure. The constitutional structure we have in Nigeria today places so much power in Abuja. The oil money goes there. They own it. They take from what is on your soil and then they give you a share. No. Nigeria before 1966 was not like that. The regions had their own money, and from their revenues, they gave the center half. That's what federalism is. That tends to create better prosperity. So that there's that political issue that if you do not constitutionally restructure Nigeria towards federalism, you cannot unlock the creativity of the Nigerian man or woman, because everybody is looking to Abuja for a contract. Everybody is looking to Abuja for some minister to sign a waiver. That's not how anybody creates wealth. Go to England, go to China, go to everywhere. Why would it be different in Nigeria? All you do with too much control of the center is two things. You become lazy. You rely on oil for financing the budget. The oil price is a yo-yo. It goes up, it goes down. But every morning you have government officials worshiping this god of small things. What is the oil price today? It's falling. Hey, oh my God, there's a problem. It rises. You find people smiling. The oil price is at $70, like now. So you find a lot of people with smiles on their faces. But this is not a sustainable plan to anywhere. So you must create resource control. The states or the regions must own what is on their soil. And the Constitution will agree on what share they will give to the central government.
But it's not really up to you. I mean, it's a
I said it's a legislative function. I said that in the beginning.
Right.
But
so
the reason we don't have it today
to
is that the executive leadership of this country is not in support of restructuring. Period. Let's get real. The president has a lot of influence and a lot of power, has the bully pulpit. And when you don't have a very independent National Assembly, then the president's body language means a lot to people. If you perceive that he is not in philosophically at this place, then you don't go too fast. You go to him at night and find out what you can do.
So presumably you're also thinking of getting people who would be part of your movement,
absolutely,
who would be in the National Assembly. Because if you don't have a majority, I mean, those are practical things. If you don't have a majority, you're not going to be able to do much.
Yes, but we will also work with the politicians who exist today. No, we are not going to kill anybody. Nobody should be afraid of a Kingsley Moghalu government means, I'm dying tomorrow morning. No, we are all going to work together. But you see, your job as a president is to provide leadership. And that's where I think I will be strong. In saying, here are the ideas, guys and ladies, can we all look at it? If I'm wrong somewhere, tell me. But at least here's the idea. Let's debate it, let's discuss it. Right. Perhaps move in this direction. So there's the philosophical issue, which must be tackled in the management of Nigeria's economy. Then there's the political issue, which is the constitutional structure of Nigeria, which is stifling Nigeria. And that's why, because the oil price performs badly over the last several years, the government keeps borrowing. And we know that whoever goes a borrowing goes a soaring. So my projection for Nigeria is that over the next few years, Nigeria may likely go into a sovereign default debt crisis. And that is when the whatever will hit the fan.
And that might be, if you become president, and I have no idea whether you will be,
I hope to.
If that happens, you will have to inherit that. So the next question I'm going to ask you is that the big question, of course, is how to raise more revenues in those circumstances to ensure a sustainable fiscal position. According to the IMF, Nigeria has one of the lowest revenue levels as a share of GDP worldwide.
6%.
Much of its revenue is spent on debt service payments and on salaries of government staff, leaving insufficient fiscal space for critical social and infrastructure spending and to cushion an economic downturn such as we had in the COVID period. How are you going to mobilize that revenue?
Good. I couldn't have put it any better. There are some very simple things we're going to do. One, if a government loves to award any contract that it sees as awardable, or invents a contract if one doesn't exist, what you're doing is that you're wasting state resources. There are many projects that can be undertaken by public-private partnership arrangements. The private sector comes in and does it, owns the project for some limited period, makes their money and hands it back to you. This is one way to conserve government resources. But if you go to a Federal Executive Council meeting and every Wednesday they go and sign contracts, come on, something is not quite right. And this kind of country is not going to go very far. That's one. Two, so that's a philosophical thing. Two, land ownership. If the state continues to own land as it's the case in Nigeria and many African countries, it also reduces possibilities for raising revenues from the economy. 3, the taxation, the tax to GDP ratio, how do you improve it? I have said it before, and I'm saying it again. Maybe somebody will go and copy me, but because the spirit in me is not the spirit in them, they will not perform it well. Every man and his uncle in Nigeria, every woman and her aunt have a cell phone in this country. Why can't we do a cell phone audit and match it to people's incomes if they have any? And if you have any, it's not about increasing taxes, it's about expanding the base of taxation. There are about 70 million people who should be paying taxes in Nigeria. Only about 10 to 15 million do. If another 20 or 30 million do, we would not need to be running to China and to all these Eurobond expeditions that we're going on.
Right.
So there's a lot of originality that can come into mobilizing resources.
Okay.
But I'm sorry to say, I hate to say it, you've got to be intellectually equipped to do it.
Okay, let me tell you this. Somebody sent in a question for you. They want you to tell the public what you have done in practical terms for the Nigerian people. They cite Barack Obama, who ran community programs that changed the lives of thousands of people in Chicago, which is how he then won the Senate. What's your response to that?
Oh, I think it's a question I love, and I'm very happy to address it. You see, because I have not come through the traditional political trajectory, and many Nigerians have been brainwashed to believe you have to be a politician, career politician, to seek the presidency. That many people may not appreciate fully what one brings to this. Let me explain. Let me start from the central bank. As deputy governor of the central bank from 2009 to 2014, 5 solid years, my responsibility as the deputy governor in charge of financial system stability in this country, I controlled over 24 commercial banks in terms of supervision. I supervised over 1,000 microfinance banks, 100 finance houses, 3,000 bureau de change, 5 development banks. Come on. This is a heavy responsibility. I was in charge of the bank, implementing the banking sector reforms. And what was the achievement we recorded? No bank failed. No Nigerian lost his or her livelihood. That's something that I'm proud of. I was part of a leadership team that did it, and I had the specific responsibility under the authority of the governor at the time, Lamido Sanusi, to supervise that part of our work. And I think I can beat my chest and say I delivered.
Okay.
Let me give you another
briefly, because we're almost out of time, and I want to get to the other
question.
question.
I led the team that developed and introduced the bank verification number, the BVN. This has improved our banking and payment systems a lot, and created part of the enabling environment for the explosion of fintech, financial technology. I can go on and on.
Okay. let me put the other question to you. We've got about a minute and a half before we have to end the chat, sadly. The other question that's come in from the public is this. How do you expect the Nigerian people to have confidence in you when you plan to go from no elected office experience and no real service to the Nigerian people to the president of Nigeria? Obviously, they didn't hear what you just said.
Yeah, but that question, I'm sorry to say, is based on, shall we say politely, ignorance. You cannot say that somebody who was a deputy governor of the Nigerian Central Bank for 5 years has not served the Nigerian people at the highest levels, the commanding levels of economic management. So let's excuse the person's ignorance. But let me answer the substantive question.
Briefly.
Yes, very briefly. The experience I have is actually far more relevant to the presidency than many people realize. What's the president's job? 4 things. Nation building, national security, economic management, foreign affairs. Check my career. It's just these 4 things over the last 30 years. In the United Nations, I rose from entry level to the highest. I helped to rebuild failing and failed nations. Rwanda, Angola, Somalia, Croatia in the former Yugoslavia. I participated in international security operations across borders. I've helped manage the Nigerian economy, and I've been involved in very senior leadership roles in foreign affairs. So I am equipped to be president of Nigeria if you actually know the job of a president of Nigeria.
Professor Kingsley Moghalu, it was an absolute delight having you in the studio.
Thank
you very much indeed. We appreciate it.